Hey guys, just checking in. You can hear me okay?
All good. Thank you. Okay, we got a quorum. We got a half plus,
Hello?
which is four we have. I think Sean will probably join us shortly here. So this is the third quarter parking facilities. July 27th. Somehow it always lines up, it's the 27th. All I have to do is edit the month on the agenda. It's pretty simple, very straightforward. Do a roll call real quick. Chet Wade, here. Sean Levine, not yet, but I think he will be. Lisa Hearn,
Here?
Brad McKibben, present. Tim Cloherty, he could not be with us, and Taryn Malabai.
Yeah.
Is here. Okay, we have a quorum. The citizen comments. Look over here. Oh, we got Mr. Flynn and Sean here. Vote them over. I see Sean. I do not see any citizens. We have none in the room. I am here, Phil Volio with Public Works, Andrew McCreary with Finance, Mark Quayle with Parking Enforcement has joined us from Warmer Pastures. Maybe not warmer today, but so let's go on to approval of April minutes. If you remember last quarter, we had a quorum issue, so that was not a meeting. So there are no minutes to approve. That was me just leaving that on there out of habit. Any new member business? This would be stuff to add for the. What's the next meeting? January, October. Wow. October meeting. Anything new to add for October from anyone of interest? You can always shoot that over to me. We can plop it in there. I think we're pretty informal here. We'll jump down to old business here. Maintenance updates, just a couple things in keeping with frustrating everyone. We closed the north garage top deck to do our coating work. CH&D was awarded that through public bid. So we took the whole top deck, redid the coating that goes on top of that. Throughout the years of that coating failing, we also ended up with some overhead repairs underneath that had to be addressed as well. We couldn't put the cart before the horse, or however that thing goes. So coating first, overhead repairs, and then we go from there. So the only notes on that project, only change orders or anything that deviated. We had two roof drain assemblies that come down from the deck after we started knocking off sound concrete and checking for cavities. We had some pretty extensive work around there. Wasn't much of a change. I can get everyone the exact amount, but we ended up putting two new drain assemblies in at the low points of that deck, which were guessed but confirmed once we started demo. The rusted bollards that kind of separate that coating from the next level down, those were all replaced in kind. We did a walk on Monday with the contractor. Public Works staff was there. The only two items of note from our punch list with Gateway, CH&D, and ourselves. We had some of the grit from the overlay from the coating process ended up in the trench drains. We just asked them to get all that out of there before it became part of the stormwater system. So they got to that luckily before these past couple rain events. And the only other one was some patchwork from old bollards that came up. Didn't exactly go back down in place. Just made sure that those holes were filled and the correct coating brought up to it, so we didn't start delamination from there on. But the overhead repairs went well. We kind of swapped work best we could to not impact parking, but at the end of the day, we took a lot of parking away for that. Towards the end, when it was just the coating work and punch list stuff, we were able to return a whole half deck back. We were still 35 spots shy for the last 2 weeks of that work. So that project took a total of 10 weeks from start to finish. Just one change order with the drain assemblies went pretty well, and that was one of their first jobs. The people weren't new, but they had absorbed into the new company of CH&D. They just added a coatings division, and we happened to be their first couple jobs. So
So Nathan contracting.
It was Nathan Contracting essentially. So,
That's his brother.
yeah, so we, after they figured out their family thing, we just did the work, so. But they've been great to work with the last 2 times. Everyone knew the drill. Had a couple issues with some washdowns on vehicles. They took care of it, no questions asked. Very polite to patrons in the garage. I didn't hear anything negative other than a couple cars that got covered, and even those people were very pleasant, surprisingly. So it was great. So aside from disrupting parking world for that long, I think I owe Mark coffee for 6 weeks or something like that. I'm sure. So that work is wrapped up. Walker Consultants, obviously, we got that report back, sent that out to you guys in early July. We're going to talk about that, a little more in depth tonight. And also coming up, I think the next commission meeting, I believe Gateway is preparing kind of a high level, what all this means, what those options are, and kind of kicking it out there as to, I'm pretty sure just start thinking about this like seriously now. So that's the vibe I got from both. We added a collection box once we had our world ripped up out front here down to Florida Avenue. Andrew kind of redid that whole system, so it kind of has become part of the garage footprint over there. You can see has a lot of traffic to it. So I think it's pretty well received. I don't know the volume of it like Andrew and his staff do, but
Being used.
for sure.
People picked up real quick. They didn't have to stop on Washington Road. I think they like that.
Yes.
Because in the old days, they had a whole bunch of collection boxes all around. There were little yellow boxes attached to poles. There's still a few around that you could drop a ticket off. Once we got rid, it went to our digital system we have now in 2018. They used to become envelopes and little envelopes, so that it was you would write the ticket on the back would be the envelope. You'd rip the envelope off and put it on your dash to pay your ticket. Then that's the carbon that was left would then be entered so that we could receive the ticket. Well, once we got rid of that, we didn't see as many people really going to the yellow boxes to drop them off because you have to have an envelope if it's raining, snow, all those different things. So having a box back here, someone can get in a car and drop it off, back there, I think people picked up pretty quickly. And we'll continue to promote it as we go. It's cambered as well. So cambered at all times, 24 hours. So.
On the fifth, now that the top deck at north is open up there, if you ever frequent up there or park up there, the top level doors of the elevator work that preceded all that was a large shutdown. You'll notice the top set of doors still has a protective coating on it. Otis is having an issue with the supplier of these doors. The stainless is delaminating from the steel frame. This is the second set of doors that are on it. So rather than take those doors out of service, which would take the car out, they were kind enough to self-tapper the heck out of the thing so it didn't bow out, so that the car still runs, doors open and close while we work through that issue. But just in case you happen to go up there and say, wow, we just went through this elevator and parking deck thing and these doors look absolutely terrible. I would agree, and we're fixing. That, Mark, you might speak to that better. How quickly with that disturbance was that garage to capacity each day?
We were filling approximately mostly beginning at 11 in the morning through about 2 in the afternoon, 2:30, and it was filling on a regular basis. And there was mostly when we were down 60 plus spaces, that's when it was very problematic. But it wasn't for very long times. Unfortunately, the way the garage was designed, we couldn't let one in, one out. It was actually dangerous for my personnel. So we usually waited till at least 5 to 10 cars exited, then would open it up, let 10 cars in and put it out. So, that would happen periodically, but it was mostly through 11 a.m. till 2 in the afternoon that happened. And on some high volume weeknights, And I can't tell you which nights those will be. It will be a Thursday night. It will be a Friday night. I'm sure there'll be some Monday night football games or some that it will fill up even with that, with all the spaces. But there was a couple evenings, which is good. That means we're getting a lot of foot traffic and up on Washington Road to the restaurant. But it was mostly during the day. On occasion, it would happen on Thursday or Friday, Saturday nights.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to see it's got lots of use.
That garage, yes, there's a lot of use.
How many spaces in that garage?
269.
Now, kind of sticking over at the north garage, we had our original G light panel that had its own logic as to which zones it turned on when. All kind of programs you could run through there. Mark was like the whisperer of the panel. We had McGurvey recently, McGurvey Electric changed that out. We went to a simple photo cell. We're able to capture all the zones we wanted, meaning the core of the garage is lit during the daylight hours. The perimeter comes on in the evening. I had one little issue. The photo cell was facing the exact angle of idling cars on Cedar. So the intermediate part in between when it was dusk and the garage was like strobing, like there might have been like advertisement for businesses, maybe, I don't know. But we corrected that issue. The gentleman that installed it actually lives in Castle Shannon. His deck, he could see the north garage and he was watching it happen and texted me and said, "I'll be in on Monday." And I didn't even know what he was talking about. So we have some good relations with some small to mid contractors around, but that got resolved. It's been great. Our in-house guys have changed out around probably close to 30 warranted LED lights. They were brand name Sylvanias, just had a bad run of drivers in them. We were able to flag them, take them down. But now with the new lighting system, we can throw a simple override, do our light checks each month. It makes maintenance a lot better, a lot easier than waiting to hear from cashiers that, half a pour's out, all of a sudden. And because those things you don't really hear about, you hear about them at the worst times. So, and they're not quick things to fix. You have to, set up drive lanes if they're in the way, keep the guys safe while they do it. So that was a good improvement over there. Just piggyback and jumping into the next one, the parking staff. I always forget the intervals between when we meet. Eric Lajewski, our parking foreman that we announced at the last meeting, that created a vacant spot. Also with a laborer, we filled that. A gentleman's name is Jordan Florian. They have been like the dynamic duo along with Steve.
Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan, they've been killing it. They really have been absolutely like a breath of fresh air.
Great hires, Phil. Great hires.
They work very well with Mark's staff, with booting, with the barnacle. They all communicate well. It's been, and Mark will attest, and he can talk about his couple new hires. It's been a nice turnover in the parking area, I think. We get a lot of stuff done without hearing about it, so they're making their own decisions. They're just doing what needs done. It's been great to have them there. So, Mark, I don't know if you want to speak about your vacancies that you filled.
Yeah, we had our collection person at this time last year when I came back from vacation informed me that he was going to be leaving for another employer. And I was upset, and then I found out that I was losing him to a better employer. He joined the seminary, so I couldn't hold that against him. So, but unfortunately, that the hiring process was quite extensive, and we would get applicants who would come in and then not show up the day they were supposed to start. And so we finally found Regis Margavo Ireland is now our collections guy. He's into his 5th month, doing a fantastic job, learning on his feet. And the nice thing is we're transitioning into the new pay stations. All the Washington Road single space, not single space, all the Washington Road S5 multi-space pay stations are completely in, and he was part of that. So he got to see the installs and how the wiring's done, and was able to work with our vendor when they came out and installed. So he's got hands-on knowledge with that, and in the meantime has been able to troubleshoot with other technicians for the Calais Flowbird company on working on the older type model. So he got initiated by fire, basically coming in, and he's doing a great job. So we're very fortunate. It took 5 interview processes, separate interview process to finally get an individual in. So I'm not looking to hire anybody full time for a long time because it's not easy, and I'm sure you're all aware of what the market's like. So, but we're I'm very fortunate with the staff I have. They're reliable and conscientious, and I can go away for 2 weeks and not have a nervous breakdown. And thank you, Andrew, for filling in all what you've been doing.
One of my many hats. Good. So on that, can we, before we get into South Garage, I want to finish for Mark. So Mark alluded to with the Vibrant Uptown coming to a close. All pay stations are in on Washington Road, so that's a big. We bought 22 of them, and some of them sat for 2 years. So those are all up and running. Mark and his team have been doing a great job making sure those are serviced and up and running. Second is we got an email today. We knew this was coming. We just didn't get a firm date. The firm date is now out there that our old meters that we have, they're Model 3, we'll just generically call them Model 3s, no longer will have any parts to be able to be ordered effective 12/31. We knew this was coming. We're ready for it. We demoed and piloted new meters, not through the old company because they're quite expensive. They're called a company called IPS. We demoed the ones with our pay stations. They also offer single space and dual space meters, in which you have 1 meter that handles 2 spaces. So we've demoed both. Mark is putting that together. We have a PO out there for 50 meters, around 50 meters to be installed this year, and we'll do the rest of them, getting all those those Model 3s out of the inventory. We still have a significant number of IPS meters that are level 5 or version 5, and those will still be on the street. We won't get rid of those. They're great meters. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. But slowly we're turning over that stock. In addition, next year, we'll also be replacing some pay stations in the Academy lot as well. So some of those, and starts to turn over. So we just need to get that. So Mark and his team's been doing a great job. So all kind of those big hardwares for parking management have gone well.
Now, some of the upcoming things where Andrew's going through his budget season right now. A couple things to note in the garages, looking to really try and push a service level for funding to do a closed lobby over the top deck of the north. The whole reason we had to do the modernization and the reason that there is downtime on these garage cars partially is because the weather works from the top down, right? Snow drifts against the doors, melts, goes down the hoistway, and we start rusting sills and all that other good stuff. So we'll be a collaboration with Mark's crew, police, fire, inspections, most likely engineering, obviously. But I don't know if you have recently drove through town to catch any pirate games or anything down there, but the Champions Garage that just went up, that top deck has a clear plexi type, I don't know what the heck it is, but it looks cool and you can see right through it. So
St. Clair Hospital also has one that's been up there for on top. Their roof area is a similar type enclosure.
Yeah, so we're looking at getting that right as we just turn over new equipment and big bucks on the elevator end of things, minus the ugly top level door. But it'll stay nice looking once we get that lobby in there. The carpeting in the elevator will take the elevator out of service one night coming up here. We're waiting till all construction was done. The flooring will get replaced in there with a high traffic walk-off tile, be made of recycled tires and everything, cleans well, holds moisture, doesn't let it go through to the cab and just evaporates out. So that'll be kind of some of the little things coming up down there. I think that is about it on that end. We want to jump into this structural study.
We'll wait for Brad to come
Yeah.
back. Yeah, we got a couple other updates too. We went
Hey
from-
Phil, this is Lisa Herm too. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay.
Yep,
We got you.
Okay. And sorry, I didn't have my my name up there, but I can hear you and see you. So sorry, I'm in a car, but
okay.
anyway, just want to make sure.
You have to tell us about your parking experience wherever you go.
Well, I'm going to Erie for a couple, looking at a couple colleges while we're up there. So
So Brad's walking back in the door here. So just a couple things just to tie up, because I imagine we want to spend the bulk of the time talking about the South Garage, the structural study, and Chet had asked for some stats, so we'll talk about those and those types of things. So first is the budget's coming up, so we're starting to do that. So if you take a tour around Mount Lebanon, go into our garages, lots, areas, and you have any observations, please send them over to Phil or myself. We can certainly incorporate any improvements into the budget. Please just, that's something we're open to see that on the operating side. The CIP, the capital improvement plan, will be released on Monday. And there's 4 items specifically for parking division. First is the vestibule that Phil was just talking about. The South Garage, which is going to be a big number, that will be in there as well. The elevator project, so there's the second of our 3 elevators is going to need to be modernized, so that's up next. So that'll be next year, and then a couple years out is our entry equipment at the North Garage. We're obviously not going to touch the South Garage because we know we're most likely going to be doing something with that. So, but in 2026, our current equipment will be 10 years old. Still has some resale value, but we're looking to modernize the technology that goes along with the gate entry system. So that's on the docket for 2026. So that's that. If you don't have any questions on that. The last thing is we are transitioning to adding an additional mobile pay option that will be effective in September. It's a company called Meter Feeder. They are in the city. They're one of the 4 or 5 providers in the city. They're also the sole provider in Dormont. So there will be a direct channel of them, all of, Meter Feeder being up to 19 corridor to us. So that's an advantage. It doesn't cost much for us. There's a small monthly fee that we'll be incurring, but the accessibility to more payment options is interesting to us. In addition, the more you leverage these mobile pay providers, whether they remain as themselves or get bought out or whatever it may be, more and more it's coming here by the next couple of years is the car is actually going to pay for your parking because it knows where you're at. And they, along with the other providers that we have, are getting in proprietary deals with these car providers. So they're not just where one car can do all of them, it's 1-to-1, right? So Meter Feeder is X car company and, Park Mobile is this car company. So it doesn't hurt us in any way. It's going to act the same. And it will integrate directly with our enforcement technology. So you'll see that hit the magazine in September and hit the streets. We were prepared for that because the QR code will just be updated with the webpage will be updated with now we offer Meter Feeder. So that should be coming up. They're a CMU, they're out of CMU, they're local, actually, they're not a national. They started right here at a CMU. So we're excited to get that started. So we're buttoning that up. When Mark gets back, we'll be firing away and getting that up and running. So that's my update.
We go right into maybe let's look at these stats before we pick through the
Sure.
report.
Yeah.
That might be the way to go.
Yeah, so Chet had asked, and as did our municipal planner, as we were going through the comprehensive plan update. Was part of the comprehensive plan update was to get the structural analysis. We had talked about that at this meeting in January. Let's move ahead with it. We have the funding for it, we should do it, and here's the report that comes from it. As part of that, we knew we would like to get some stats. So Chet had asked for it and our planner had asked for it, so we put those together. These are coming off of Mark's stats. One caveat I will tell you when I tell you about these stats is they're cobbled together. The reason is because a lot of our two of our systems don't talk. So that's one. And second is, the permit data. Those that are coming in and out of the garage on a permit, are not tracked within here. So
That's
this
one of my
is,
questions, like exit payments or exits, that has nothing to do with the people on permits.
that's correct.
These are strictly people come in, grab a ticket.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, Mark and his staff do a great job of doing car counts on a periodic basis, and you see that as one of the charts on here, or one of the statistics on here about the car counts on days of the week. That could be at various times. That could be at 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening, but it's at least giving you a pinpoint in time that
Like
is
a-
pretty
a
consistent.
spot census.
Yeah.
You walk
Yeah,
in.
for a little bit more detail is what happens is, what I like to do is we take 1 week out of the month. We rotate the week of the month because believe it or not, there's differences between different weeks in the month. We also have there's a car count. We do a morning car count that will be anytime between 8 and noon, and an afternoon car count that's anywhere between noon and 5 or 6. And we do that. And I started that back at after COVID, just to see what was happening and how we were coming back online in the parking operations. So I believe they're varied enough that it gives you an accurate idea of what we're looking at. And I think, Andrew can tell you what he picked out and everything, but we go through and we count them. We literally manually count the cars. So it's a point in time, occupancy.
And we've struggled, they've struggled, for years since we installed it in 2016, to get the technology to work, and so we just pretty much bailed on it. You have to reset it, it doesn't count it right, it's just not right. So we, say again,
We sponsor it,
to close to 300,
so it's half full.
correct? Pretty,
It feels right.
yeah,
More than I thought.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. I mean, I asked for it because the first question I always ask when you get a report like this is, do you need to replace it? And I don't know, look at like, where do you put 174 cars, or 150 cars in around the business district? I'm not sure there are a lot of options.
Just remember, one of the nice options is when we were doing the top 2 decks of the north garage, we had places to put them in the south garage. I mean,
Well, yeah, even then that, I mean, well, and what you're telling me about the north garage is there's no room in the north garage to move all these people
no,
to the north garage or to the Academy Avenue lot.
yeah.
I mean, or.
And to the opposite is that if you wanted to build more, we have more capacity too. Right.
I
if
mean,
you wanted to
that was
go-
the reason for my question. I just want to get a sense
Yeah.
of, I mean, maybe it was empty and we said, oh geez, we don't need it, but that doesn't seem.
No, no, and it's especially too, what this really tells is how consistent it is throughout the day. It's 50% or more filled all day
And this,
because of the type of, we have you have people coming out in the evening,
right,
right? And the 750 being connected to it, so you have some permit holders and overnights. And those are 24-hour, then you have early doctor's appointments. So you have South Hills Eye Associates, you have, other doctors along here that they're coming in that morning appointment routine, then you hit the lunch side. Then you get the afternoon, and then people start coming in for dinner, and it's kind of a consistent rotation. Now, not a lot of people go farther down than the 3rd floor. If you go to the halfway through the 3rd, 2nd, and 1, it's pretty much empty. So it's what you feel the counts come out. Mark and his staff do a great job making sure that, it's justifying we're not missing something for sure, and making sure it's there. So we did that on exit, but just to briefly explain, there's exit payments, so that's actual physical tickets going in and out. The difference between cashier payments and total exit payments is the validation program, or people paying at the kiosk. Right, or through the drive-through lane, right, paying in lane. So we still get out those half, of those, we have close to 70,000 exit payments for a year's time frame. About 35,000, 39,000 of them go through a cashier. So one of the questions we had many years ago when I first started 10 years ago was, do we need cashiers anymore? The answer is yes. Cashiers are still something that we pride ourselves having. People like having them here. They get use. They may not be 150 people an hour, but they're at least getting on their shift. They're seeing 40 to 50 people a shift, as you can see here in that second column, what per shift, what they're seeing.
so I did a back of the envelope, which is gonna be really wrong, but I'm looking at like 250 to 260,000 revenue annually. Is that a right number? Based on-
More than that. For permits, yes.
Well, I'm looking at permits and, you know, just adding them up, and I got about 183,000. Give
Yeah,
or take. And then I just, you know, I'm just trying to get.
I can get you that number.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out where the money's gonna come. It's not that it's gonna be my problem, it's gonna be the commissioner's problem, but,
right.
and well,
Right.
ultimately the taxpayer's problem,
Mhm.
but which is, comes back to me. Dang, I didn't get out of it.
Well, yeah, so based on the stats, so yes, the
Okay,
the stats.
just trying to get my head.
And as we move forward with this, there will be plenty of consultants that will be on board if we go big time, right? So that it will.
And just to clarify, this is enterprise fund accounting. So, I mean, you said it's going to be a taxpayer's problem. That's not correct.
So, I mean, we say enterprise, so it's funded through, that's what I'm not a finance expert, I'm not a construction expert, any of that stuff, but I was just trying to get my head around. Is this something that is basically project funded? It's funded from the revenue stream
Correct.
of, yeah, okay.
Yes, it would be revenue bonds, most likely. You could potentially do general obligation bonds as well to get a lower rate, but that's for a different day and a different time. But you're right, is that these counts are good to have now. So it was a good exercise to do now. And as we move forward, there's gonna be a lot of depending on what goes in, whether that be a garage in kind or something different, we can talk about those
Well,
items
that is
there.
one, yeah, my
Yeah,
other question.
so that's something different. Mixed use,
Yeah.
so property acquisitions, storefronts. There's a lot of different things that,
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I didn't see it in this idea of demolish and build a combo. I mean, you still need parking, but you've got air rights that, you know, right now it cuts off at street level.
Mhm.
You know, do you put retail, you put condos, you know, is there a private developer willing to come in and do some kind of project?
Mhm.
I mean, you know, any land in Mount Lebanon is extremely valuable.
Yeah. Any other questions on this before we get into those ideas, because those are fun. This is not so.
Well, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah, one last one. Those 150 average,
Yeah,
how many of those are permits? Because it's kind of hard to discern that.
it's probably 50%.
It's 50,
It's probably 50.
Okay.
Because you have those, the majority of the 24 hours in the 750 Washington Road, right? Those that aren't, you know, so on and so forth. The day permits are, we have our largest permit holder, South Hills Eye Associates. Right, all their employees park over here, so, you know, of the 150, that's 30. You know, 24-hour permits are, how many are there? There's 58, so. You know, there's probably more than half of those are in the garage at all times, so you're already close to 50% at that point. So. All right, so anything you want to start with the
No, we
South
can,
Garage Parking City?
we can jump around on this, but the main page on this, obviously, they cut right to the chase pretty quick. We're really looking at four options that were roughly presented. You know, these are all rough recommendations, but I mean, that's all these guys do. So, I mean, they're in the ballpark, if not, you know, they all are positioned well and these are good. So,
What's the replacement value of that structure? We were gonna put it back similarly, because they didn't give that number.
Well, if you look in there, they give a number per spot, and if you presume the same number 300.
Mhm.
What I came out, again, my envelope's got crap all over it. Like 8.2 to 13.4, including demolition. So it's actually not much different from,
So the
it's
rehab-
even lower than a repair
All
charge.
right, so the rehab and new are potentially the same number.
Close to, yes.
And that's without, like I say, I started looking at, geez, could you get somebody to come in and try to do something on top of it? You know, you got all this space above it that might help cut the cost or generate revenue where you do some kind of, I don't know, it gets into all kinds of other partnerships, whatever.
There's also the caveat too, is that we own the property right next door, right? So the lot right next door, the
Okay.
municipal lot right behind this building is
Okay.
also ours.
Okay.
So there's aspects to development there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I don't know if it would come to fruition, but it seems like something worth exploring and see if there's an interest in something that's bigger than just either fixing it. Although it looks like we're gonna be stuck you know, the community's gonna be stuck for at least short term doing something, because you're not gonna have this done, in, the next 6 months.
Right. We're gonna budget just like we did a couple years ago. We'll budget every year to make sure that we have the most at need spots of the garage fixed. That we bid out similar to a sewer contract.
Right.
We may bid it out as something with 1 year contract with 2 year option years or 3 year option years. And give ourselves the opportunity to rebid if we'd like, if so on and so forth. So we may structure it like that internally, that's what we're talking about. Is structuring a contract that way to get us to make sure that we're ready for those most at need slabs during that period.
Yeah, because I mean, if I read this right, what the consultant says, until they do an additional study to see how much the salt's affected it, they can't really tell you which, of one or two, which one you can do. They're leaning towards two. They're saying, we suspect that the penetration is pretty high. So you're now at 9 to 11 million with some 33% variation in their guess in terms of replacement on some of the work. And if I read their numbers right, like I say, new is, a little over 8 to 13.5, that's new, and that's not getting any extra added benefit out of, reconfiguring, building it the way you want. I saw something about, building code issues. I don't know if that's factored into the repair work, whether you have to make adjustments for building code.
Sure.
I mean, repairing, with a 95-year-old house, I know repairing anything is always more expensive and more difficult. So I don't know, it sounds like you guys have been thinking along those lines a lot already.
We have cursory. I think the comp plan really has taken this report and run. So the part of their feedback and reach out to the community is, what would you like to see in that space if we had to tear it down?
And then how do you manage the X years to get it? What do you do with all these cars for probably 2 years? After we're just coming out of vibrant uptown.
Do not mention that it's a bad word.
And into, by the way.
Yeah. And that's where I think this municipal law comes into play. If you then build here first and then demolish,
Yeah, you're gonna have to play some shuffleboard.
shuffleboard. Yeah, there's gonna be some shuffleboard.
It's separate from the bank, right? It's not attached.
It is not, but the two ramps they own, they installed them, but they only cause us problems. But yes, they are,
Two physical.
you could take them off and not affect us. Right, so to speak.
So how quickly could they do, what's the thinking? Is the staff and everybody else thinking about doing this second step of finding out how much the salt, the chloride damage is, and how long would that take? And how much would it cost?
That I don't know.
No, I think based on the direction of these options, we're gonna have another look at scope. If that involves more cores of horizontal decks to see which decks are what. The coring to figure that stuff out is not, it's quick, so I think we could have higher insight into option 2 pretty quickly. But that's most likely part of Gateway's work is to unpack these four options and give us from their ranges, find scope and then find specific range.
Yeah, because
But how much work?
How much work?
Remove and replace all the supported slabs. Incredible amount of work.
it's,
When you could put a precast structure up in 6 months.
Yep.
You demo that whole thing and put a new one up in 6 months. Versus it's 2 years of work probably. Am I right? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
and we already went through some of that, right? So we saw some of that in 13 or 14, 15 and 16.
You get to support all these different.
You're right, but we saw how disruptive any of that is.
Right.
For a 2 year extended period
You're
of
not
time.
in any spot in that garage for the whole duration of that contract.
Yeah.
well, the only thing would make it, and reading this, it seems like that makes no sense, is if their assumption is incorrect and that the salt damage isn't severe and you don't have to reinstall cathodic protection, I looked at it as like 3 to 4 million. You get 10 to 20 years out of it. Which would be an inviting thought. I'm not saying that's the one, but it does give you a little different perspective.
Well,
You have nice access to build one back there, build a precast structure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's a lot of upside to starting over.
I didn't realize it was from 66. 65.
Another, just a thought exercise was, we know who the tenant is at the front of the south garage,
Okay,
being the bank.
right.
And if you're at the bank, you know it's not very populated. So there may be, if we're serious about it, there may be those discussions that we approach that say, hey, we'll lease it back to you, but does it make sense for us to move our footprint forward to really develop that, or have a developer, however that all works,
Right,
to look at that whole space, this kind of whole block
right.
space. So I don't think that's out of the question either when it comes to this
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah, because I mean, we've seen, one bank move out and, I don't know how excited they are about their branch direction. I mean, it seems like they have other ideas about where they want to put branches. They are popping up.
Yeah.
but Not necessarily.
But wait, West Banco on Beverly Road is closing August 17th.
Oh, is it?
It is,
Okay.
it's closing, right? So it's happening. I'm not saying something that's like earth shattering. All the Giant Eagle citizen banks are turning into virtual tellers.
Yeah.
You know, so it's happening, so we may need to strike while the iron's hot almost. So this is why it's good to know that maybe we would do that. And we have our commercial districts manager who has those types of relationships that could ask that question. We do have tenants down here. There are two businesses that run through up on the ramp. Right up here on Municipal Way, there are two businesses that are underneath that Citizens Bank, so it's not just. Yeah,
I'll have to walk around there.
One of those talented wood shops you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
yeah, and then
My husband.
Yeah.
right here, right up the Municipal Way on the side here.
Huh.
Mhm. And I think it's an IT company, or is it the other one, an IT company, or, yeah, so. But so we understand kind of the landscape and where it is, and Mark can attest to that, it's gonna take a large extensive planning process, but you're right. I think, do we leave it in kind? I don't know that the palette is there for that, to leave in kind. I think people want to do something different in that space. We now have the opportunity, and maybe it's our shot to do that, so.
Well, if you look at the numbers, it's kind of like a double secret garage, right? You can have people enter from Florida, you don't have to mess up Washington Road, right?
Yeah,
And build a smaller one underneath, I mean, because it's all businesses and stuff, and people that know Mount Lebanon, right? Yeah, so that would open.
well, and also one of the aspects we struggle with this south garage that we've always struggled with. Is people don't know that it's there because it kind of goes in an infinity, the infinity pool, right? If you're, yeah, so if you had it closer to the front. Kind of art, just comes off the side of the building with the parking with the arrow that comes down like this, and you're used to seeing in a city center. And you turn in and it's a garage, maybe we, would have more usage and get people off the street. and
You
those
get a
types of things.
mechanical person flying.
Yeah.
This, like at the ball.
Yeah,
A
so
new sign there now?
it is,
Yes,
it is.
I noticed
Still
that.
hasn't affected anything, but it's a new sign. It's the parking blue, so, so that's where we're at.
But that is a good point. I mean, the lack of visibility, people don't, even realize how large it is until they start circling down, down and down and down. But if we had an opportunity maybe to relocate the bank or do something different with that footprint, I really think it's worth doing. And then there's the piece where this would give us an opportunity to look at putting EV spots in for kind of like the longevity as we see more and more of that change happening.
What do you need from this group?
We just wanted to make sure that you had it for you, that, you saw. If you had any other additional questions, I think we kind of got what we needed. It's going to be incorporated as part of the comprehensive plan, and as we move towards the transition to the new board structure, this will be an important document for them moving forward. So I think we have our marching orders for the next year or two. We know what we need to do as staff and make sure we're budgeted properly with the engineers to make sure that work's done next summer.
So how well known along the uptown is this among the business owners that something like this is coming?
It's a good question.
I mean, I think about, again, they, like lots of people experienced getting everything right for uptown. I won't say the other B word, But now they're gonna face this, and that's gonna be a challenge for them, and you want to help the local businesses as much as possible.
I think too, when we had, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, when we had the decks ripped out. Portions of the decks ripped out, in 14, 15, and 16. Mark and his staff do a fantastic job of being able to get you out on the third floor. Or so on and so forth, they come, or the other way is to come up and up through here. So yes, there is, ways to kind of bifurcate the garage so that, again, being half used or half full. However you want to look at it, however you like to look at your glass. We have the ability with this garage to do that. So, the general permit parking and daily people that know they need to park here for an extended period of time, I don't think will be as much affected, maybe a few, transients. Transient parkers that would be more affected, but Mark and his crew do a pretty good job of signing
Yeah.
that, or having attendance available and so on and so
I'm
forth.
sure.
Unfortunately, I was around for the 1990 renovation, the 2004 renovation, and the 2013, 14, and 15 renovation. So the big part of what dictates of how you run the operation is when the contractor comes in and says how he wants to do the job as how he bid it. And you know, we had at one point upper part and a third floor exit. We actually had parking entering and exit on the roof and entering and exit on the exit in the lower level. And the garage is not conducive to that, and it takes a lot of manpower to do it. But again, it was all done with the idea that we wanted to get the contractor in and out as quickly as possible. The one rehab they did, they actually encapsulated the garage, depending on the time of year and everything. When the bid's awarded, they had to encapsulate the garage, and so they could work through the winter. And you know, they had torpedo heaters in there, and it was quite unique. So again, I think
Galleria, Mark. We could look like the Galleria.
yeah. So again, it all depends on, you know, it can be done. And again, but it's just a matter of how the contractor perceives what he bid and what was awarded to him. And then we have to sort of, you know, backpedal and make it work for the business district.
Yeah, it'll be, like I said, it'll be, you know, shovelboard or something.
And that's where our commercial districts manager, Eric Milliron, who wears many hats, and one of them is talk people off the ledge of parking. It will be okay. We will find spots for people, and people will be able to come to your businesses. So yeah, he does a great job.
Well, thank you for this. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think that really, and sorry to interrupt you, but I think the board's the parking board's kind of push to say do it, I think is really gonna pay off.
That's been huge, because this was kind of, we got quotes, they came in and we are kind of sick.
Right.
We got close, they were high, or over
Yeah,
budget, what
they
we
were
were
over
expecting,
budget.
so.
But the voice of like, this is important to get this done from you guys, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right, we're in that environment right now. You guys know construction better than I do, but I mean, you know, things cost money, but you look at the long-term investment. And the alternative doesn't look good, which is to let it rot.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Right.
just the aesthetics alone, you know, you're driving through Uptown and it's beautiful, and then you're like, what
What is
is
this?
that? And then it starts again, it's like a weird spot.
And just some history, we tried to at one point do a combined development when the North Garage was built in 1990. But we had to demo that garage prior to any decision being made on the construction of a new garage. And it devastated the business district at that time. And the minute that garage opened, it was a big shot in the arm back for why Washington Road wouldn't look like it does if it wasn't for the North Garage. And so again, I'm just saying that not having we're very fortunate because we're on a linear path along a ridge of a mountain in Mount Lebanon that we have 2 parking decks, and that it gets people who may not want to cycle through to park in Mount Lebanon. If they're driving down 19 and they don't see someplace readily available through the business district, they'll just say, I'm going to go out to the mall, or I'm going to go down to, you know, the Galleria. And, you know, so I mean, we are very fortunate to have these 2 parking decks, but I'm biased.
They're
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Pages, get more in depth, you can get as far in depth as you want in this report, the more
Yeah.
pages you flip,
Yeah.
7 and 8, or 8 and 9 are very helpful in giving you some more meat and potatoes on what those 4 options are. I think they're written very well, so, please make sure you scan those pages to, kind of fully know those options. But they're, Gateway's working on unpacking this, possibly giving their recommendation on what we do next, so.
And that will be on, August 8th. They'll be
That's
presenting
the next,
commission meetings. Be that and trash. Talking about trash and recycling, so it's gonna be a big meeting.
When does
are
this?
we in favor or against it?
It's for what?
Trash.
We don't have a choice to be for or against it, it's just how do you wanna pay for it?
Okay.
You wanna do
We're
it, do you wanna do it differently?
gonna have that discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would.
The September magazine, does it come out before our next meeting? Because if so, we might get some more citizen comments.
Yeah, will this be in the September magazine? Any discussion?
Not the whole thing, right?
No, no.
Any discussion about this, not prospect.
Oh, I thought that's what you said. I thought you said it would be in the September magazine.
There was something else you were.
Meter feeder.
Oh,
Meter
okay.
feeder
Oh.
in the September magazine, yes.
That's what, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I have used it.
But I think, let's heed your concern, because I know you have a background in media.
Yeah.
Let's heed your concern, let's ask
Yeah,
Laura,
no, that's a good.
let's ask that to Laura, I mean, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, I don't, your, relationship manager with the business district, boy, I think I'd be starting to hit the pavement. Because this is gonna be huge for Uptown, and for anybody who. comes-
Even the repairs, it's gonna be another
Yeah.
thing coming in, we unfortunately got a 1965 garage.
Yeah,
Still
I mean,
there, so.
Yeah. I
let's
mean,
ask
it was-
Laura.
it's not
It
like-
was good to see options because we started talking about this, Andrew, like how many years ago? So it was good. It was good to see some options. At least now we can move forward and have tangible discussions instead of our
Right.
theoretical conversations we used to have.
Yeah,
I've been on this board for, I don't know, almost 10 years now. We've been talking about this garage as long as I've been on. Hey, could you send me the report? I don't seem to have it.
I just sent it to you. It's in a, you'll see a forwarded email that I sent to Lisa. It's attached to hers.
Okay.
I think I also sent it, if you scan back like the first week of July-ish. Maybe.
Right before the 4th of July.
Yeah, maybe the
Yeah.
second.
There was the 4th of July reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was supposed to be an iced tea along with that.
Yes,
to-
you're supposed
to
to-
enjoy it.
It's an lawn chair, yeah. exactly.
Nice to meet this thing.
Exactly what I did.
Commissioner Flynn, any update or anything you want to go into?
No, I think we've hit all the important stuff. Yeah, commission is taking a break right now. Yeah, we have we had this week off. So things are blissfully quiet, though I'm looking forward to seeing the new CIP. Andrew? Yeah, no, I think there's nothing really else to report. Obviously, discussions are continuing around the board realignment. I think this board is in a good place for it. Yeah, but some of the other boards do have some questions in terms of the transitions. Historic preservation is a good example. They're concerned about some of the activities that they undertake around placement of cell towers, right, and preserving historic spaces and making sure that that there is a process in place that is going to ensure that that responsibility that they have now continues under the new board structure. So it's those types of issues now with the board realignment that the boards are kind of looking at some of these specific issues that they deal with and how do we make sure that they are perpetuated in this new board structure. So that work is ongoing. We are continuing to have mobility discussions more broadly around just transportation. I know that a conversation is being had with not just Mount Lebanon, but also Dormont around active transportation planning. That is something that we do want to undertake this next year, is building out an active transportation plan. Now personally, I do think that that can't just be about, thinking about bicycles. That really, in my opinion, does need to think about how do we move throughout the municipality, recognizing that there are new mobility options that people are wanting. But that also needs to just think about some of the, bread and butter issues of parking and, sidewalks, right? These things that, we take for granted. But, through the comp plan, we have seen that, people are still very much saying, we want more sidewalks, we want more walkability, we want more ability to access our business districts on, modes other than driving. So that's an effort that I'm hoping will get undertaken, as we go into next year. But again, parking is a key building block of that whole process, right? We're not getting rid of cars. Parking is going to be here. So how do we understand it? And that is all I do believe going to, play a big part in these conversations that we're going to be having about the South Garage. And I'm looking forward to it. That's not to make this political, but that's one of the reasons I'm running again. All right, this is a topic I really do think is we need to push through and make some strategic decisions, because it's going to set the stage for our business district and frankly the surrounding community for a long time.
Any other announcements out there? Motion to adjourn. Second?